On today's video, we're back to Lost Kingdom 141 as we have some massive reports to show you guys, as well as go over some of the most important questions most of you have been asking, like, why would 322 do this? It's a 2v1, they can clearly not win. It seems impossible. What the heck were they thinking? In this video, we're going to go over somewhat of the strategy that I believe they've been employing, as well as what you can learn out of this and what you can implement in your Lost Kingdom if you find yourself in a 2v1 situation. So sit back, enjoy the video. We got tons of insane reports, 3 insane reports coming up. Smash a like on the video. Hey there YouTube, welcome back to Gekko Gaming. Today we're back to this flag where we left off in the last video about Lost Kingdom 141, which I don't think you guys liked that much. I'm going to leave a card up on the top right in case you missed it. A lot of you seem to have missed it. Maybe it was because we did a little bit more analysis on the flagging positions and on decisions and how these forts were placed and all that. Maybe that's something you guys don't like. Let me know in the comments down below what was about that video that you didn't like, I guess. But for now, a double rally hitting this flag with a Wuzetian holding strong. Now, we saw in the previous video that the folks of FTKA and FTKC had a little bit of a rough time early on coordinating the rallies. That's not the case anymore. We're about to watch a few massive double rallies and insane hold by the folks of 322. Now, one of the questions for the record before we begin, actually, there are a few rally reports throughout the video, 3 of them to be exact, that you really don't want to miss out on. They are nuts. Some of the craziest rally reports I've seen in a while. We're going to sprinkle them through the video as we talk through things. We'll break the ice a little bit with some craziness. So, one of the first questions that I've seen the most out of the last 2 videos is why on earth would 322 go at this? It's a 2v1. They can clearly not win. And even if they can somehow win it, it's a 2v1 when they have allies somewhere else. What's the plan behind this? When you get stuck in a Lost Kingdom in a situation where your Zone 5 is a 2v1, there are 2 options. You fight or you don't. That's it. Now, if you decide to fight, you have to understand that the numbers disadvantage will destroy you. Kingdom, I believe 279 learned that as well the hard way in the last Lost Kingdom we covered. However, they, just like 322, by the way, had the exact same idea and did the same exact great, fantastic move. The idea behind 322's push is essentially we kind of want to hurt our enemy a little bit, but we also need to be aware of when we're starting to hurt ourselves. One of the things that it seems like the community is not accepting, you guys do not believe that is a thing, is an alliance or a kingdom backing off of a Zone 5 fight. Last Lost Kingdom 135 that we covered, we saw that happen as 2v1 happened on the bottom right side of that map, and the folks of purple decided to bail on the fight, which was the best possible thing because at the end of the day, they ended up winning the KVK with their allies, the sharing of the rewards. So you don't want to burn yourself out very early on, but you do want to cause as much damage as possible, which is the same thing the folks in purple of 279, I believe it was, in the Lost Kingdom 135 did. The idea is pretty simple. You want to make sure you're doing as much damage as possible, but once you're the one starting to take more damage, that's when you call it and back off. Now, Kingdom 322, some of them explicitly told me, listen, our goal was to just cause damage. We knew that this 2v1 was going to be very rough. We knew that there is a plan for us, or we want to have a better plan with our allies regarding a more wide-scale fight, trying to even out the numbers. I don't know what the plans are or whatever it is. I'm assuming these guys have a plan for when their allies can come help them out in Zone 6, as they have access to Zone 6 like you saw in the previous video. Now, before we continue with that, let's sprinkle in our first report because, man, oh man, these reports, it just get better and better and better as the video goes by. This is 340. in baby blue. They did fail with those forts, but they came in with flags and Bam! 2.1 million deaths against a 1.1 million. My goodness, that's like 30 plus million troops on that flag fight. Look at this insanity. Power drop, 17 million slightly wounded against the 6 million. Just crazy, crazy stuff. This is the attack, essentially, the defense right there. A Richard Yisongye is not necessarily the best pair nowadays. I really don't know how much I like that. And that full cavalry with Saladin Khan is nuts. It did so much damage. Going back to what we were talking about as we enjoy this defense against the double rally. 322 decided that they want to have fun. They want to fight it out a little bit. They don't want to just sit there and not do anything until zone 6. They had the option to go fight. As a matter of fact, really every single zone 5 had a little bit of a potential for a fight, but not everybody who attempted to make the move into the zone 5 that was more dominant by their opposition put in as much effort or any effort at all beyond trying to flag there, and if it lost, it lost, and that was that. So what are the things that 322 did manage to accomplish? As you'll see in a bit, the folks of blue as well as baby blue had to put in some big boy work when it comes to flagging in that zone 5. At the end of the day, they needed flags to be able to counter rally, to double rally, to push 322 out, and really, if you go take a look at Lost Kingdom 141 right now, you're going to see a very big use of flags in the zone 5 that is not ideal. Why is it not ideal? Because it was meant to try to go up against 322, but in return, it was very expensive in terms of alliance resources for flagging and forts. It was very expensive. Remember, the more flags you have, the more expensive they get. And in general, it was just a big hassle to get rid of these guys who knew that if nobody went up against them, they were going to punish. And so they forced the hand of blue and baby blue to kind of get together and fight it out. Now, I don't necessarily know who is 100% allied with who, in the sense that I've talked to almost every kingdom in this Lost Kingdom. And while it seems like the alliances are set up in a certain way, some of them are telling me that it's not necessarily how it seems. And I'm not saying anyone is about to backstab anyone. That is not the point at all of this video. But if you guys think that it was a 4v4, a strict 4v4 because that's how it was from the beginning, I feel like 4 kingdoms became allied and then the other 4 kind of ended up getting together to try to fight the other 4. I think that's what's what's happening here. I have no clue. Like, no, not all 8 kingdoms told me, listen, we from day one wanted to be allies and we had this alliance set up for a while. These guys kind of worked things through as Lost Kingdom started establishing itself and the diplomacy started going between these kingdoms. And nobody's backstabbing anyone that I know of. Don't worry. This is not like me spilling the tea on something that's going to happen. It's just, it seemed to me that that from all the kingdoms talking about Lost Kingdom and what's happening in here, that the alliances, the way they ended up working out, wasn't as straightforward as just like, hey, let's ally up and go up against those 4 guys. It wasn't exactly that. With that being said, Zetian is holding on like a beast. That commander is nasty holding on to garrison situations. And these double rallies just keep coming and coming and coming. And this is the kind of thing that 322 were trying to accomplish. They got FTKA and FTKC to spend the flags and the resources and everything to go after the one flag. On top of that, 340 ended up flagging their way towards where this fight was happening and came into the action very quickly. You're going to see an overview shot of what the flagging looked like as things progressed. I have a couple of shots where you can see the flagging pattern slowly and steadily making their way towards where the fight is. And eventually, the guys in baby blue made it in with flags to where they wanted to be able to fight this out. Here's the deal. At some point, you have to call it quits if your kingdom 322. Why? Not because you have been defeated, but because at some point, your efforts start hurting you more than helping you. These types of strategies, when you go on a 2v1, you have to go into the 2v1 where every single influential player within your kingdom understands that when leadership says it is time to back off, everybody backs off. It's not as easy and as simple, as straightforward as it sounds. It is definitely not, because there are plenty of prideful people with plenty of money to back them up that will say, oh, don't back up. I don't fight back up of a fight. I don't bail out of a fight. I will fight till the very end. That's not the case at all. That is not the case at all. As you can see, eventually, FTKC found themselves a little bit having to fight a bunch of different frontiers. There was a bunch of flags burning at some point. At some point, 322 said, enough is enough. And so, even though the flag we're watching being burned is way up there, they started to kind of bail out on different frontiers, and they kept themselves focused on the one frontier at a time, because they knew that that's where they could sustain an even, if not positive, exchange. The whole idea behind this is we want to inflict as much damage on you as possible while not losing more than you are. If you manage to get to a point where the rallies that you're hitting and you're doing and your whatever it is are more beneficial to you, as you can see the guys in baby blue making their way forward. They even dropped a fort right there, 340J a bit closer, another 340 fort right next to it. So they were definitely going for it. Here is one more crazy rally for us to kind of break the conversation. Look at that list. Wee. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my goodness gracious. 320. Oh, 3.5 million against 2.994 million. That is massive. Massive. But yet again, if you take a look, if you count all of these, at the end of the day, 340 kind of ended up a little bit ahead. But 322 did massive work in there. Even though they lost a little bit more power, there were more deaths on the folks of 340 than 322. What a crazy rally report, right? Unbelievable. And so what do you do at this point? This is the guy rallying, by the way. 240 million kills. That is insane. And so back to the action. Before we go back into that area, remember this zone 5 that had a little bit of people pushing in from the orange side. Yellow and purple were not about this life. Yeah, they just slowly and steadily came in and cleaned up the guys in here who had a valiant attempt on trying to get some zone in here, but they never really put up a fight like the guys in 322 did. And that's understandable. That's completely understandable. But to an extent, you've invested so many resources and so much into building this area that on the one hand, the least you can do is try to fight it out. But at the same time, with the amount of presence purple and yellow had in here, I can understand why orange just said, we're good. And as you're taking a look here, pink is already set up for their side right here. So really, whatever happens on the other side is gravy. They're just trying to do their best to kind of, do their thing. And remember, baby blue pushed out towards this zone 5, and they are definitely not welcome in here. Green folks are not going to let that stand. That baby blue fort and all that is going to be gonzo pretty soon. And kind of like in the previous video, like I explained, it ended up working out that the zone 5s kind of somehow got themselves a little bit divided. This was the flag being built to get rid of that one flag right there and clean off the folks of 340 out of here. Here's the thing. 322 had this flag, just like that other flag. Those were two massive flags that got rallied and beaten down consistently. But what they did that was most important is they recognized where the choke points were, and they managed to consistently send reinforcements and make sure that the trades were as favorable as possible for them. How do you know when it's the time to back off? You can literally look at the rally reports. And as time goes by, if your defense slowly starts crumbling, which it will, because it starts with a one rally on you, and then it becomes a double rally, and then it becomes a triple rally, and it eventually reaches a point where you are losing more than the attacking side is. At that point, you need to back off. 322 stayed out on the field until they realized that the numbers against them were very significant. If you, in one or two rallies, you lose 20, 30, 50,000 troops more than the enemy, 100,000 troops more than the enemy, one or two times, it's not necessarily the end of the world. But when you're consistently losing more and more and more than your enemy, that's the point where you gotta call it quits. 322's main thing was, we're gonna do as much damage as possible, and I think, based on the numbers that I saw very, very briefly, the best case scenario is that I think they ended up breaking even. I'm not entirely sure whether they ended up in the loss in terms of the numbers at the end of the day. Wuzetian was insane. Wuzetian was completely insane. But the rally reports also showed that, you got to give credit where credit is due. The FTK family did massive work. And then 340 came in and knocked it out of the park too. Here's one more rally report that I drooled on. Look at how long this reinforcement is. My goodness, this list doesn't stop. And the flag, oh my goodness gracious, they are still doing more damage. They're taking more severely wounded, which means they're losing resources. And by the way, this Alexander is not maxed out, but still, Alexander Yisong Ye, massive report. 17 and 18 million power loss, 50 million troops in this report. What an insane thing. And as you see, the folks in Baby Blue pushed their way through and started helping clearing that bottom side. I unfortunately did not catch too much action of those rallies. They were hour-long rallies. And it was just like reinforce, 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 reinforce non-stop. It was just nuts. At this stage, 322 said, okay, we're actually in this 2v1. We cannot keep pushing against FTK fam much more. We're really trying to hold on. We want to do a little bit of extra damage to the folks in Baby Blue, but it is time to back off. And so they did. They did not fully back off, in the sense that you need to be able to pick in your battles, and you need to be able to pick your fights. Essentially, when you have that many frontiers fighting at the same time, you really have to choose one to hold on to. And every now and then, 322 seemed to rotate the frontier they were going to hold as things got harder and harder in the one frontier, which is a really interesting approach. What do I think about this whole thing? I think that it's a fantastic strategy if you come into Lost Kingdom knowing that that's the kind of strategy you want to employ, and therefore you're very well stacked on resources and troops to be able to lose that much early on. Secondly, if your alliance leadership and big influential players can control the kingdom and agree that that's what you do. I've seen a kingdom try to back off while a whale says, I will not have it. And the whale kept rallying or defending, and he pulled some people with him because everybody's like, yeah, we don't want to lose. And it ended up just in more losses. At the end of the day, this kind of a strategy requires you to be able to say, to pull the plug and understand that your image will look like you were defeated, and you will look like you are done for. But again, if you have the ability to come back into the fight, you're not locked into your zone 4, then everything is still open. Pink have the way on the other side, just like purple did in Lost Kingdom 135. However, people looked at them like they lost the 2v1. Now, did 322 lose the 2v1? They did. But losing the 2v1 intentionally is much different than losing the 2v1 because it was just too much for them. And the reason I say it's intentional is because I know that they have access on the other side. So who is looking to hold onto a side that is impossible to hold onto when you have the other side? Just like in Lost Kingdom 135, I'm sure these guys backed off because they wanted to, because they saw the strength of the FTK fam and they realized they cannot hold any longer by themselves in there with 340 and 321 going crazy in there. And with that being said, I think that's a cool idea. I think that more people need to do it. I think that as long as a kingdom is well balanced and understands what the forces are and what kind of damage you're trying to inflict, I feel like that's a great step towards a better thing. If you remember Lost Kingdom 135, orange and yellow who fought purple 2v1 and beat purple, even though purple called for a backup intentionally. By the time they got into zone 6 to fight against 289, they had nothing left in the tank. Nothing. Why? Because the guys in purple beat them down. And yes, the guys in purple lost their zone 5, but they ended up winning the Lost Kingdom. So losing the battle to win the war seems like a great sacrifice to me. And I have a slight feeling that's something we saw from these guys. Now, don't get it wrong. As you can see, they did not go down without trying to fight a little bit further. They did not only take rallies on rallies. They found opportunities to fight back. They found opportunities to try to throw off their opposition a little bit. The folks of 340M did not let this go down. As you can see, the reinforcements and defense are strong. However, the fact that 322 kept finding opportunities to cause as much damage as possible before fully backing off is something really admirable. And I am really looking forward to see what is going to happen in Zone 6. Now, I am a big fan of pretty much every kingdom in this Lost Kingdom. There are so many awesome people and so much action that's going to come up still. And I want this to be on the record. I never take a side. I don't care. Truthfully, I don't care who wins or loses this Lost Kingdom. I have nothing against or for anyone. All I am for is for making the awesome content and meet new cool people along the way. That's the mentality I go into when I cover a Lost Kingdom. And so it's not that I'm taking a side. Usually, somehow it ends up happening that one side is a bit more cooperative than the other. But I am very open to hearing both sides, to being able to tell both stories. And I'm also very happy to withhold any information that either side requests me to. But unless you talk to me, I can't know what you want or what you don't want. As you can see, the folks in baby blue have pushed in really, really badly at this point. This pass being held by the folks of 322 is not going to hold. And that's pretty much the end of that. Now, the next time we cover Lost Kingdom 141 is going to be in Zone 6. We're done with this frontier for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this first little bit of action from Lost Kingdom 141, and we'll be definitely back when Zone 6s open up, although it seems like Lost Kingdom Season 3 is right around the corner, and we might be a little busy with that too. Lost Kingdom 141, I'll see you guys in, I think, a couple of weeks or so. Until then, thank you guys very much for watching the video. I hope you found it informative, helpful, useful. You enjoyed the content. If you did, make sure you slap a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell so you get a notification every time I upload a new video. And come join us on Discord. Link in the description down below. We're almost at 2,400 members. You guys are awesome. Thank you for joining the Discord and being an awesome community. Super supportive. All the likes, all the good stuff. And I'll see you guys sooner rather than later. Take care and have a great rest of your week. Well, beginning of your week. Peace.